You know that feeling when you think about putting your hard-earned money into the stock market and your heart starts to race, your palms get a little sweaty? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. That fear is very real, but here's the thing. It doesn't have to control your financial future. So let's dive into this and build a roadmap to turn that fear into real, solid confidence. This right here, this is pretty much the key to everything. It's a psychological principle called loss aversion, and it is the absolute root cause of why investing feels so scary. Our brains are literally hardwired to feel the sting of a loss more than twice as intensely as the joy of an equal gain. Now, getting this isn't just some fun fact. It's your first line of defense. It means when you feel that fear, you can recognize it for what it is, not a warning to run away, but a totally normal, predictable bias that you can learn to manage. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to acknowledge that this fear is real and it's okay to feel it. Then we'll meet the psychological villains that are trying to mess with our decisions. After that, we'll find our superpower, confidence, and arm ourselves with a practical toolkit. And finally, we'll learn the secret to winning this thing, playing the long game. Ready? Let's get into it. Okay, first things first, let's just validate that feeling of anxiety. If you're nervous about investing, it's not a character flaw. It's not a sign that you're bad with money. It's actually a deep, fundamental part of being human when we're dealing with risk. I mean, think about it. For most of human history, losing your resources, your food, your tools, whatever, that could literally be a death sentence. So that instinct to protect what's ours is buried deep, deep in our DNA. So when we think about losing money, that ancient alarm system in our brain just goes haywire. It has no idea we're just looking at a chart on a screen. To our primal brain, a threat is a threat. And that's where this quote from Benjamin Graham, the absolute legend of value investing, really hits home. Once we get that our fear is just an old instinct, we realize the real battle isn't with the stock market, it's with ourselves. The real game is learning how to manage our own emotional reactions to all the ups and downs. All right, so if we're our own worst enemy, let's get to know the enemy a little better, right? In the world of finance, these enemies have a name. They're called cognitive biases. You can just think of them as these little psychological villains whispering in your ear, trying to convince you to do the exact wrong thing at the exact wrong time. First up, we've got the big one, FOMO, the fear of missing out. This is that panicky feeling you get when it seems like everyone is getting rich off some new stock or crypto coin. The hype is everywhere, and you get this powerful urge to jump in, not because you did your homework, but because you're terrified of being the only one who misses the boat. And then there's its sneaky cousin, disposition bias. This one's tricky. Remember how a loss hurts twice as much as a gain feels good? Well, this is where that really messes with us. We'll rush to sell our winning stocks just to lock in that little bit of pleasure. But our losing stocks, we hold on to those for dear life, just hoping they'll turn around. Why? Because selling a loser makes that loss real, and that hurts. So what happens when you put these two villains together? Well, you get this roller coaster right here, the cycle of market emotions. We get swept up by FOMO during the euphoria phase and buy in at the absolute peak. Then, when the market turns, panic sets in, and disposition bias convinces us to sell at the very bottom. It's basically a recipe for disaster, a perfect storm for buying high and selling low every single time. Okay, so we've met the villains, but here's the good news. For every villain, there's a hero, and that hero is you. You have a superpower that can beat these biases, and it's not about having a genius-level IQ. It's about building genuine, unshakable psychological confidence. This superpower even has a name, financial self-efficacy, or FSE for short. And this isn't just about what you know. It's about what you truly believe you can do. It's that core conviction that you are capable of handling your money, making good decisions, and charting your own course. It's the voice in your head that says, I've got this, even when things get rocky. And that's a really important difference to get, right? On one hand, you have financial literacy. That's the what, the knowledge. But on the other, you have financial self-efficacy. That's the how. It's the bridge between knowing what you should do and having the guts to actually do it. You could read every investing book ever written, but without FSE, that fear will just keep all that knowledge locked away. So, what happens when you build this FSE? Well, a lot of really good stuff. People with high FSE don't get reckless. They just look at risk more objectively. They don't just react to the news, they plan ahead. And here's the big one. They don't panic during a downturn. They persist. It's the perfect antidote to that emotional roller coaster we just saw. Okay, so confidence is our mindset. It's our compass. But even a hero needs some tools. right? A shield, a sword. So in this section, let's arm ourselves with some practical strategies that turn that belief into real action.
It all starts with these 3 fundamental steps. Step 1, make a plan. Actually write down your goals. That plan is your anchor in a storm. Step 2, diversify. You've heard it a million times, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's a cliche for a reason. And step 3, set realistic expectations. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-wealthy-slowly plan.
Now here's maybe my favorite tool in the whole toolkit. It's powerful, it's simple, and it's called dollar cost averaging. This is the ultimate way to take your emotions completely out of the equation. You just commit to investing the same amount of money on the same schedule, no matter what the market is doing. It's like putting your discipline on autopilot.
Let me show you just how powerful this is. Say you invest $100 a month. When the price is $5, your $100 buys you 20 shares. Fine. But here's the magic. Look at month 3. The market tanks, the price drops to $2. Instead of panicking, your automatic $100 buys you a whopping 50 shares. By the end, your average cost per share is way lower than the starting price. You automatically bought more when things were on sale. It's brilliant.
All right, we've got the right mindset, we've got the right tools. Now for the ultimate secret weapon. The one thing that crushes almost every short-term fear out there. Perspective. It's all about playing the long game. And we have to be super clear about this. Investing is not gambling. Gambling is a game of chance, and over time, it's designed for you to lose. The house always wins. But investing, that's totally different. You're buying a piece of a real business, a piece of economic growth. It's a game where everyone can win. So I keep saying that time is your superpower. Let me prove it to you with some numbers. If you look at the S&P 500 historically, and you only invest for 1 year, your odds of making money are about 75%. That's pretty good, but that 25% chance of losing is exactly what our fearful brain focuses on. Okay, but what if we just give it a little more time? Now, stretch that out to any 10-year period, and that number skyrockets to 95%. That short-term anxiety, that fear of loss, it just starts to melt away when you stretch out your timeline. And here it is, the knockout punch, the number that should quiet that fearful voice in your head for good. Over any 20-year period in the history of the S&P 500, an investor has never lost money. Let that sink in. 100%. That isn't a gamble. It's the power of time turning short-term jitters into a long-term near certainty. I love this quote from Paul Samuelson because it just nails it. Real successful investing should be kinda boring. The thrill is the trap. The watching paint dry part is where you actually build wealth. If you want to rush, Vegas is that way. And this really brings it all home. Look, investing takes some discipline. It takes discipline to make a plan and stick to it, especially when it's scary. And that can feel a little painful sometimes. But the alternative is so much worse. It's the pain of regret, the pain of looking back years from now and wishing you had just started. So in the end, it really comes down to a choice. The pain of short-term discipline that leads to long-term freedom, or the long-term pain of regret that comes from letting fear win. The question isn't if you'll feel pain, the question is, which one will you choose?